we all got an amazing front row seat. Yeah, we can't do too much reveal, so that'll just be the teaser for our listeners. I am very excited to introduce. Welcome to the Make Water Work podcast, where we dive into the people, ideas, and innovation shaping the future of water. I'm your host, Isaac Pellerin. Each week, I share conversations and stories with leaders, community champions, and innovators who are making water work for everyone. Whether you're a water professional, a curious innovator, or simply passionate about our most precious resource, this podcast is for you. Let's get started. Welcome to the Make Water Work podcast, where we celebrate the people serving and leading in the water industry. I'm your host, Isaac Pellerin, and I am very excited to introduce a new co-host to the Make Water Work podcast, Laura Vidal. Laura is the Association Partnership Director here at 120 Water and has a real passion for rural water and all of our customers, but has a unique background. And we thought that it would be amazing to get to tell the stories of rural water. And before we did that, we wanted to have this opportunity to say, let's dig into Laura's story. So Laura, welcome to the Make Water Work podcast.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here and to be with you and be highlighting rural water in particular.
Yeah. This is a fun, unique one because we get to, we've had years of having meetings together, going to events together, just exploring, and you've been such a generous guide in helping me understand the what rural water brings to the table, and just the incredible impact that they have on their community. And so as we just introduce our listeners to you and who you are, though I'd be surprised if they don't already know who you are, because you're kind of a big deal. But let's go ahead and just start with this first question. So, Laura, how did water find you?
Yeah. So I love this question. How did water find you? Because water always finds a way, right? Like no matter what, water's gonna go wherever it's gonna go. And it certainly did. It found me. I was not looking for it. Way back in 2005, I actually had a friend that said, hey, you really should apply for this job we're hiring for. It's a marketing, a PR position at this company I work for. And I didn't really know anything about the company that she worked for. But I had been out of college for about a year and was working at an investment brokerage firm, which is interesting. It's high stress. And for a young woman dealing with a high powered male broker, it was a lot, and I was ready to leave. And so I said, well, yeah, I'll try it. So I applied for the job. My degree is actually in computer information systems through the Awesome. Kelley School of Business at IU. So luckily through that, I did take, marketing and all the other businessy classes and stuff. So that kind of set me up. Anyways, I applied for the job, ended up getting it, and got to work at the Alliance of Indiana Rural Water for 17 years. No background, no water background, nothing, right? And got to work with one of my closest friends for a super long time. She actually works here at 120 now again. We had a little break in between, but water finds a way, right?
Yeah. It brings you back, and it brings the people that have an impact on you, and with you get to work together.
It does, yes. And so I started working there. I had no idea about water, and quickly learned there was a lot of complexities, to do with water. I didn't really know where my water came from, what happened, and all of that. And so just learning about all of the licensures that folks have to actually do the job And then the public health protection behind that, all of the different methodical processes, the math. I mean,
Yeah.
all of that stuff. Like that's none of that is visible to anybody who's just turning on their tap who has no idea.
Yeah.
And it sparked a genuine excitement in me to be a part of something that, you know, truly mattered. And so I ended up staying, obviously, if you do your math, back to 2005, I stayed at the Alliance of Indiana Rural Water for 17 years before making the leap to come and work here at 120 Water, which that's a big step, of course, after being somewhere for, you know, over 15 years. But the reason it was easy for me was because, you know, they invited me to come here. I applied, but they invited me to come and help manage our relationships with our rural water partners, and being on the other side of that and kind of executing that partnership from the association side at the Alliance. I was like, heck yeah, like this is great. I know these folks. I love these folks. And so I just get to keep doing things in the rural water industry. And I never knew that that's what I would be doing, but I can probably honestly say that I won't ever not work in the water industry. I love it here.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like I can say the same thing after, even though I haven't been in water as long as you have. 2018 was my introduction into water, and ironically, it was one of the first people that I met in water was Tom Spear from Lawrence, Indiana, and who was a customer, and I knew I didn't know a lot, and so he again was just generous in. I asked if I could do a ride along, follow him along on what it takes to do his job, get a tour of the treatment plant, like all of those kind of things. And it just opened up an entire new world to kind of say, what does the day-to-day look like? And so I'm kind of curious too, if you reflect back to when you were at the Alliance and you look at, let's just talk about like I think we can talk about rural water as like, oh, it's a segment, or it's there are even like workshops that are great, but like rural water workshops or small systems challenges and things like that. But like, what are the traits of rural water utility professionals that you see, that you observe, that you say like, wow, these are amazing people?
Yeah, absolutely. So I kind of alluded to that a little bit about staying in the industry. It's because of the people. These are genuine salt of the earth kind of people that are doing these jobs. They care about what they're doing. They're usually neighbors or belong, you know, in the community. They live where they work. They care about the water that's being delivered. And since they are small systems, oftentimes, you know, the budgets are smaller and they have to do a lot more with less, I would say, and are just genuine, gritty, determined, creative folks that get the job done.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's talk about the association in particular. Just for our listeners, let's just, how does rural water associations work, particularly the national rural and then state associations, like, help demystify what that is and the support that they provide to their utility members.
Yeah. This is a good question to ask and to talk about, because I think a lot of people don't quite understand it unless you're in it. So the National Rural Water Association is a nonprofit grassroots association that really helps support rural water and wastewater systems across the nation. You know, I think they are celebrating their 50th anniversary this year. It's, the country is 250. I think they're 50. And, they started and just to help these small systems. Now, what happens is National Rural Water gets funding from, and they ask for it every year. They ask for funding assistance from the EPA and USDA rural development mainly. And what they do is once they get that funding, they then disseminate that through to the different state rural water associations based on, the need, the population, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What that helps do is it helps fund positions in the state rural water associations for boots on the ground assistance for these small systems. And when I keep saying small systems, what I mean is, and what the government and everybody classifies that is any system serving a population of less than 10,000.
Yeah.
So through those grants and that money and that funding, then that includes circuit riders, EPA training specialists, technical assistants. Those are kind of the three main things. But those folks then go out and help these systems. And the term circuit rider actually comes from, the idea that they're riding a circuit around, an area. So they will go around and just kind of check in on systems if they don't get calls from systems, which they get calls frequently from systems. And they just go in and they check on them, ask them if they need any help with anything, because through the advocacy of NRWA, the government understands that those systems have a greater challenge to comply with the Safe Drinking Water Act rule and all of the other rules that are coming out just because of personnel, right? And they just don't have the it's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. They don't necessarily have
capacity.
And the infrastructure built up, the maturity, but not in a derogatory way, but there's just a lot to do.
Right. The rural water folks, they might run the water utility. Sometimes they run the water and wastewater utility. But they also might be the parks person, the maintenance person, taking care of snow removal, the grounds, things like that. They truly do many, many things in their community. So with the assistance that we get, from USDA, rural development, and EPA, they are able to then kind of bolster those folks that have the diminished capacity because they're doing everything to kind of be those folks that help them, make sure they're staying in compliance, not as an enforcement type thing or a checking up on them kind of thing. And I think that's the beauty of rural water associations is that the utilities know that the associations are there to help them. Like they're not there to report on anything that they see or, they talk about or whatever. Like it's like a safe space and they truly are there to support and help them.
Yeah. Which is amazing. I feel like we all got an amazing front row seat to how that all works when, and even as we at 120 Water and some of the programming and the what you built here was really in collaboration with how we work with utilities, how we work with state agencies, how we work with rural water associations, and so let's kind of talk about that and go back a couple of years before the lead and copper rule revisions hit, or they'd hit, and then we realized that all of these systems needed to understand what the rule was going to require, when it was going to be required, what might change in the rule. Like there's a lot of things that EPA will say, hey, here's something new. Here's 987 pages. Go. And I throw around the stat a lot, like 85% of systems operate with 3 or fewer employees, if that. And so, who has time for that? but I just think about the way that you built the relationship with the rural water associations, where we became a partner to be in that step of education and then that step of implementation. Yeah, what are some of the things that you remember, if that's not too much PTSD, to go back?
Yeah, well, I really have to give props to my former colleague, Lowell Huffman, for really
Mm,
honing in and developing those relationships and providing the training, you know,
yeah.
for the associations to help get out to utilities. He did a
Mm,
phenomenal job of kind of wrapping all of the different nuances, requirements, everything like that up in a little bow for people. He wasn't always everybody's favorite person in the room when he did that.
mm,
He's like, don't shoot the messenger.
yeah.
Uh, but I think being able to disseminate, all those different things that are happening in those 900 pages and what's required, what you need to
Yeah.
focus on, um, that really, that means something to
Hmm.
the association and the utilities. But developing that relationship that, we at 120 Water are not just here to sell something to utilities. Yes, we do sell things to
Yeah.
utilities. Yes, we want to sell things to them. But we also really want to help. And I think that's something that's very unique here. And I think through Lowell previously and me now, we have developed that relationship with the association that, we want to help. We want to be your
Hmm.
partner. We want to help these small systems. Unfortunately, many companies just care about the bigger ones. And
Hmm.
so I feel 120 is pretty unique in that we care about the smaller utilities. So with LCRR and LCRI now, there are just so many different steps and things to do. And I think initially folks really thought, well, they're giving me a spreadsheet. I really just have to fill in the spreadsheet. That's all there is to do. But when we're able to kind of dissect it and tell them all the different pieces that they'll have to do with what
Hmm.
they put in that spreadsheet, it becomes clear that maybe they need something a little bit more robust to help them manage all of the
Hmm.
things that they'll have to do. And so oftentimes, not maybe the tiny systems serving less than like 100 people, but
Yeah.
some of those mid-sized systems, they see the value in software, which is, what we do at 120, that will really help them do their job more efficiently and ultimately make it so that it saves them time to do some other things, because lead and
Yeah.
copper is not the only thing they're doing.
Yeah, no, no. One of a million things, and it's you were saying that the association is maybe celebrating its 50th anniversary. There's also like it's the 50-year anniversary of the Safe Drinking Water Act, which is great. It like we need safe drinking water. Obviously, we need to make sure all those things. That also represents a point in time where the amount of work and the amount of forms, the amount of compliance testing started increasing. And so the amount of work that needs to be done, data that needs to be reported up to a regulator has increased exponentially. And that's just the trend of where it's going. And at the same time, um, the amount that the general public has their eye a lot more on like what is my utility doing for me. I mean, I feel like we're seeing this a lot as the as data center kind of come front and center. Folks are expecting their utility to help them understand it and or understand those things. So like all that to say, you have regulatory things going up to regulators. You've got all these reports, and they have to deal with communicating out, building that relationship, making sure there's transparency. It's not a job that's getting easier, and it's becoming really important to have associations like National Rural Water and the state rural water associations to be that that collaborator.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we had such a unique opportunity where we've got to build. Um, well, I am. If for those who are hip to the Enneagram, I'm an Enneagram 9. Nothing makes me happier than when we can figure out how to harmonize relationships. And I feel like that's kind of what we've done here at 120. Is we've been able to lean into conflict where it needs to be, but also build that bridge between utilities and regulators and associations, and understand how it works in each state. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good point to bring up, is there, partnerships are not without some stumbling blocks sometimes. And so the best part about these partnerships is that, folks do feel like they can come to me and voice something that's wrong, or that they think is wrong, or that, hey, this isn't working the way it should be. We can work together to figure out, hey, what are we going to do about this?
Or even some of the exciting things that we have going on now, where it's like, hey, love that we crushed it on lead. Here's some other problems that we have. Can we be part of solutioning with you together? And you've been at the forefront of those conversations lately.
Yeah, I think that's some of the most exciting things that have been happening here recently, probably within, the last 6 to 9 months or so, is that, we have seen that there is a need with, like, what we have this new product, Sample Manager, right? And we see that could really benefit small utilities, and so do the associations when I show them this. And so then we try to collaborate and work together and figure out, well, how do we really get this out to them and make this available to them? Perhaps they, have budget constraints or things like that. So I've been really talking with a couple of associations about that, and some things are moving and shaking there. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah. We can't do too much reveal, so that'll just be the teaser for our listeners. To keep your eye on some ways that we look to really collaborate. And I think that's like the thing that you bring, and we always want to make sure everyone that works here and works with our customers kind of embodies that level of curiosity of like, hey, is this working for you? Is this providing value? What else? Where else are you experiencing pain, to say we're here as a collaborator? And there's the Rural Water Association is highly Collaborative, and they care. I mean, they bake you a cake when it's your birthday, or you have a baby, right?
They do. It's true.
A little Easter egg.
A little Easter egg. I hope he finds it. Yeah. Sometimes when you have a baby shower, they might bake you a cake. But yeah, they are super collaborative. And I think that going back to like the connective tissue that we have at 120 and dealing with, like, we have utilities that are customers, but we also have state regulatory agencies that are customers. And so we kind of connect those two, but those don't happen without the Rural Water Association, truly, because in every instance where we have a state agency relationship, it has been not just because of, but the Rural Water Association has definitely helped connect those pieces, get everybody together. And, those state associations or state agencies really look to the Rural Water Association to help them, make sure that they're bringing the utilities up to standards, or helping them if, they're falling out of compliance or things like that. And that's not to say that every small system always has problems, because some of them don't. Some of them, they, like I said, they're gritty, they're creative, they know what they're doing. Amazing. But like I said, the Rural Water Associations are really that connector then between utilities and the agencies, and then we kind of are in there with them. It's kind of
Yeah.
this really beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is. And they like, this is where we can nerd out on the value of data and those kind of things. Cause I think we've both been in rooms where you talk about a new rule, EPA, and you might all of a sudden become a therapist hearing receiving the feelings of that,
Yep.
which are all amazingly valid. And then you also realize that we can start having the right conversations when all of those entities are looking at the same data or saying, hey, what are the systems that have the most need? How do we understand that from a framing or from a funding framework? How do we understand where to say, hey, let's partner with the Rural Water Association and be targeted with those, which at the end of the day becomes just an effective and efficient use of the funding that they get anyway. So it's like, it just feels, without having too much of a rose-colored glass view of it, that we've been able to like help evolve with the entire industry, how we just get better about having the right conversations rooted in data. Which again sounds super nerdy, but I love it.
I mean, it does, but ask any of our state agencies that we work for, and they love that data. It's so helpful. So it's just a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited that we get to do a new series under the Make Water Work umbrella, focusing on rural water. And we've talked so much about all of the guests or all of the amazing people who are in rural water. We want to bring some of those to the forefront. And I can't think of a better person to co-host those conversations with than you. And
yeah, I'm super excited about that too. When you brought it to me and talked about, let's amplify these voices, that you'll learn, or maybe you already know this, but in the rural water space, we often say that utilities need to do a better job of amplifying what they do, right? Like they're just kind of these unsung heroes, and they're kind of almost invisible sometimes when everything's working appropriately, right? But something happens, infrastructure is old and something breaks, then suddenly, it's their fault and the public is mad at them. And it's like, wait, what about all the times that it was right? And they're out there
to take the credit, but they get to take all the blame.
Exactly. Yes. So in the rural water space, there's definitely been a push for just public relations and like getting stories out there, amplifying all of the good that is done. And so I think this is a small step in that direction, specifically with just amplifying all the good that is out there.
Yeah. Well, I'm super excited about the guests that we're going to have in the coming months, because they have stories that are absolutely worth telling and shining a light on.
Absolutely. Super exciting.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this podcast where I get to interview you before we go and interview all of these unsung heroes. And thank you to everyone who tuned in. I'm very excited to get to share these stories. Again, as always, we appreciate when you like, share, comment, let us know who else you want to hear from, particularly in this case, if they're a rural water hero, let us know. We would love to tell their story, and hope we'll see you next time. And thank you for tuning in. Thanks for listening to the Make Water Work podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a conversation. We'd love to hear your thoughts and questions. Connect with us on LinkedIn or send us a message. Together, we can make water work for everyone.